Well, welcome back to part two. So we were talking about the Severn.
Yeah.
And how did the fishing kind of develop from there?
Well, again, I mean, going back to the barbel fishing, the seed again, another seed was sown, and whilst at that time I drifted into some big eel fishing, catching big eels from the still waters of Birmingham, the Park pools.
Yeah.
Myself and Mick Brown. That's when I met Mick Brown, the famous pike angler. We forged a brilliant friendship. He became best man at my wedding and so on and so forth. But the common interest that we got was big eels.
Right.
We'd taken lots of eels, again with friends as well. It wasn't just me and Mick. We'd taken lots of eels, 4, 5 and up to 6 pounds, friends, yeah. And there was bigger fish to be caught. Those days are gone now because the eel runs don't occur, and it's I always say to people, when we were catching those big eels in the 70s, those fish had probably been there since before the start of the Second World War, because they could have been 40 years old. And it's a sobering thought, isn't it? And I became, by my own standards, a little bit too successful in catching big eels. I noticed 1 or 2 fish that I'd caught and put back, thinking that were okay, were turning up dead.
Right.
Because I'd deep hooked them and didn't try to get the hook out. I'd left the hook in, and I suddenly had this feeling one day in the mid-70s that really I'm damaging the very things that I love,
Yeah.
And I decided from about 1978, something like that, not to fish for big eels again, and I haven't. I'm tempted to, because I see and I love talking about it. I had a terrific time. I had loads of big eels, lost monsters in Cannon Hill Park. Twice I lost fish there. Oh yeah, my friend Rog Blower lost a fish at the landing net because of an error on my behalf, and I do still take responsibility for that. That must have been 8+. I'd had a 5-10 the night before, and it was lost at the net. But I decided at that time that no, I can't live with this. I can't, because I just convinced myself that every eel that I was catching, there was a potential that it was going to die, and I didn't like that. And so in those days, it was fishing was very seasonal. It was tench in June, carp in July, August, and so on. October the first pike, and then winter chub or whatever, or barbel in September. It was very, very seasonal. But at that particular time, you started to get, and beyond that time, guys that specialised in a species. You suddenly found that the specimen hunter role of being an all-rounder was diminishing, and people saying, "Oh, I'm a barbel fisherman, I'm a tench fisherman, I'm this, I'm the other." And again, typical me, I wonder what I am, And every so often I'd be a tench fisherman, every so often I'd be a carp fisherman, and so on. But the rivers still attracted me, especially for pike. I've never had many big pike, but any big pike. I've never had a 20-pounder. I've had lots of fish, high doubles, because I caught them from rivers. The river always attracted me. I think it was the days of the Mr. Crabtree. I love eddies and things like that. I love features that you can see. It's like this swim
the
here.
Watercraft of it.
Watercraft. I love this. I mean, this swim is a great chub swim.
Chub.
Big perch. This is a typical Crabtree swim. It's probably got every species living in there. So, I was always attracted to the rivers, and then really once we'd seen the 70s through, and bear in mind I got married by 1978. I'd had my first child, and children bring changes to your life, whether it's lack of money, lack of time, and then I had another child, and it went on until I had 3 children, and so and I moved about as well. I started to realise I'd got to start earning decent money.
Decent money, and life catches up with you.
That's it, ambition and so on, I started to chase the dragon a little bit and moved around the country and went into sea fishing again. You know, I moved to Devon and loved the bass fishing off the beach with sand eels. I've fished for place off Hope's Nose in Torquay. And again, I didn't just dabble, I became a bass fisherman. That's a complete nut job. I became a bass fisherman. I became a place fisherman at certain times of the year. Abu Zoom beach casters, you know, 6,000 sea multiply. Oh, I did the whole thing, you know, typical me. I laugh at myself. And then again, with ambition, it took me to the other side of the country, to Sussex, East Sussex. I went to live just outside Brighton, and then developed my fishing. I went into carp fishing. The early 80s, met Chris Yates, became a great friend of Chris Yates, became a member of the Golden Scale Club. I got a hobby at that time then. I started to make Mark IVs from JB Walker Blanks and became the rod builder of the Golden Scale Club. I had a great time with those guys. They're all university guys, all posh, what I would say, and I was the rough butt from Birmingham, but we had a great time and some great fishing, great carp fishing, and then came back to the Midlands by probably about 80, 88, 89, 86, 87, and then resumed my love affair with barbel. And
how would you sort of see from going away to coming back? How the river sort of changed and the fishing changed?
Nothing, nothing really. No, I mean the barbel fishing, as far as the Middle Severn was still on the up. You know, and the fish were getting bigger. But I started to hear, you know, big fish coming from round Kempsey. I can remember going roach fishing on Kempsey Angling Club waters, and the old bailiff there, who's dead now, God rest his soul, old John, came down one day, and he was a proper old Worcestershire boy, and used to talk that way, and he'd come down and get your ticket money. I used to go down there for roach in the winter. He said, I surprise you ain't had a barbel, you know, young Lawrence. And I said, barbel down there. Oh, they're there. He said, I always remember he said, they're there. And I said, right, okay.
Because now we're talking sort of well down below Worcester,
aren't we? Way down Kempsey, yeah. And that was it. And then I started to question and, you know, started to I mean, this is long before the days of the internet and that. I started to talk to people, and then people say, oh yeah, so and so had an 11 pounder, you know. And then really started to, you know, fish the lower Severn. I didn't fish the Kempsey waters because you couldn't night fish.
Right. Yeah.
But what I did do, I started to fish the Worcester waters, which was on the opposite side, and they controlled Boocham Court all the way down. But that was about 80, 88, 89, something like that. And it was great, you know. I didn't realise it, but at that time Des Taylor started to fish it as well, with his mate Phil Goodsall, early 90s. And yeah, it was different. I was starting to get double figure fish, but I knew bigger fish were there. No, tell a lie, I didn't. I was getting fish the 8-9 pound mark, but I knew there was bigger fish there. I was hearing stories, and I had to think of a way. How can I get these bigger fish? And a lot of the time, these big fish were being caught in matches. They weren't being caught by the barbel guys. And you know, the method in those days was, you know, a gallon of hemp, put it in, walk away, forget it for a bit, and then come back and put a chunk of meat in the middle of it, you know, and that was it, and it worked. But I knew I wasn't getting the best out of it. I had to do something different, and that's when that's when. I mean, people think I only fish with, you know, huge pieces of meat. I don't. But at that time, it was a simple idea that was just brought on, and I was watching. In fact, Dave Harrell was fishing the match, and I was watching these guys, and I'd wait for the match to finish, and I'd go up and down and see who'd caught fish, see who'd caught, see who'd lost barbel. And I'd choose to fish that spot, you know, so who'd put the most bait in. I was cheapskate, you know. But I'd wait, and then I watched this guy, and he got his like a bait box, and he'd taken out little oxo cubes of meat with a sharp knife, and there, in the, there was 2 huge chunks of meat, and
Yeah.
just went, threw them out into the river,
Right.
and they were huge, and pladouche, and I thought, no, got to try that, you never know,
Yeah.
you never know. Are these big barbel coming in later when everybody's gone, and that was it.
Right.
And that was the big change
Yeah.
in barbel fishing for me.
Yeah.
And then really starting to focus, and again, the quote that I said earlier, BB's Confessions of a Carp Fisher chapter, the obsession grows,
Yeah.
and by God.
So how many times sort of a week were you?
Oh, those are mad times, well, caused divorces and all sorts of stuff. I was fishing probably at least 5 times a week, at least, of a night as well. So it was very disruptive, and I was getting in at 1 and 2 in the morning. I was up at 6 and going to work, but it was just a complete obsession. But I was getting the results, but I always felt as if I wasn't getting what the potential was. I was hooking fish, massive fish, and losing them. I mean, in those days, I wasn't even using centre pins. I was using Mitchell 300s and Drennan 1 1/4 pound Drennan specialists. Great rod. And but I started to really become a lonesome thing. I was there on my own. People couldn't keep up with me. I used to meet Chris Ponsford on the bank, and he always used to say, he knew I was there without him seeing my card. He could smell me because I used to, I was, heavily flavouring the baits with Scopex and stuff. And it wasn't just a teaspoonful, and it was glug, glug, by the glug, and it worked. So it was a. I look back now, and it was a very, very stressful, disruptive, joyous, effective time.
Yeah, I think we've all been through sort of times like that where it's got a bit too, important or a bit too frenetic, isn't it?
Oh,
and
absolutely.
You look back now and you think, well, at the end of the day, it's only fishing.
That's the question. That's the statement I always make when I'm asked a question. It's only fishing.
Yeah.
And I see these young lads now doing it, and they get uptight and all, and don't have lives. I was always reminded of the life that I could have with the old disco boat that would come up. I mean, I've been on the bank in November with a temperature of 8 degrees, and I'm waiting, and I'm getting liners, and all of a sudden the disco boat would come past they'd be dancing to some Tamla Motown record, and the girls would be waving, and the times, not just once, the times I'd go, what the flipping heck am I doing?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Is it worth it? And then I'd trundle back to the car, fishless, and I'd blank, and I'd blank again, and blank again. But then again, the 4th night, the tip would just nod, and off it'd go, and it'd be 11:10 or something like that. Fantastic.
Great stuff. Well, we're going to have another little short break, and we'll come back in part 3. And if it's all right with you, we'll have a look at your gear and your sort of tactics.
No worries.
Great stuff. Join us again soon.